Hello, my name is Raylene Gardner, and welcome to Module 5, the final podcast in the series of podcasts on inclusive and diversity in the classroom. So, in this final podcast, we're going to do a recap of Modules 1 through 4. So, let's get started. So, we started off by discussing bridging the gap between the classroom and a variety of learners. And when I look back at my teaching experience, these are some things that I had to do to bridge the gap. How did I do it? I implemented the use of digital tools in the curriculum to meet a vast majority of learners. And that was somewhat difficult, but it aided my classroom experience. Why did I have to do it? Because it was necessary to service the learning needs of various types of learners, allowing them to maximize their knowledge in a planned learning environment. And if you want the most of each student in the classroom, you have to be diverse. What did I have to do? I had to select appropriate digital tools, which was used in these podcasts and which we saw that were quite effective in the inclusive learning environment to meet the needs of a diverse set of learners. I had to bear in mind that everyone learns differently, which is true because I consider myself to be one of them. And everyone wants the opportunity to learn. Lastly, when? It has to be an ongoing process because each semester you meet with different challenges and a different set of learners. So we spoke about what is inclusion in education. It's the ability to meet the social and economic needs of students. It's the placement of students with diverse disability and creation of communities in different environments. So how did we develop inclusion in our learning environment? There had to be a means for us to provide physical access. We had to incorporate participation, encouraging learning, achievement, and performance in the classroom. So what are the barriers to inclusive education? And before I get started, I just want to say it's important as a facilitator to have an open door policies to discuss some barriers with your students and that they be able to tell you the challenges that they're having. So the barriers are attitudinal barriers, bullying, and we all know about that. Physical barriers, lack of wheelchair ramp, inappropriate curriculum, meeting the needs of the students, and teachers that are untrained. So we also talk in our series of podcasts about technology and inclusive education. How's that done? Provision for access, curriculum, education, multiple means to complete assignments with ease, independence in performing unaccomplished tasks. We spoke about how do we create an inclusive environment, culture, and education through technology. And it's important, like I always say, to have an open door policy with your students where students are constantly engaged. You have to develop, especially as a facilitator, technical skills. And it is known that for us as teachers, we don't like to get in this technical world. But in order to be current and be able to offer a diverse learning environment, we have to develop our skills. I had to do it personally. And still today, I'm not a social media guru. But I had to develop enough skills to be able to teach in an inclusive learning environment. I had to allow for individuals instructions for students, and we have to address equity, providing access to instructions. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of technology and inclusive education? And some of the advantages you know about: the speed, reliability, storage capacity, communication, and provisions for individual learning. We discussed this in our previous podcast, but I'll just go over it again. The disadvantages are integration of the tools, students' dependency, adjustment to students with different literacy levels, and making academic dishonest. And we all know that many students are not at the same level as everyone, but as a facilitator, you have to be creative in the way that you present the information to the students. So what is technology in education? Well, it is considered to move much faster with the use of technology. Technology in innovation acts like a buffer that makes learning in an educational environment. And as we all know, We were introduced to technology years ago, but it's important for us to continue to keep current so that we can be a better facilitator to students, especially in a diverse and inclusive learning environment. So how can we access different types of technology and an inclusive classroom? And this one stuck out to me because I thought about many students who have learning disabilities, deficiencies, and how they have to be able to adjust to this type of environment. There has to be a building of a digital escape world for these students by using tools such as Microsoft Learning Tools, Power BI, and having a smartphone for the visually impaired. What are the skills to enhance learning and promote and develop diversity? We have to enhance the course syllabus, allow students to feel welcome, and that's very important. And that could be done by giving them a hug when they come to class or when they come online, just greeting them, personalizing their names. That's one of the things I would advise any facilitator to do, get to know the names of each one of the students and, if possible, the parents. Ensure students have awareness and to have an intercultural competence. So as we wind down on this recap, what are the strategies that would encourage home and schools to collaborate and enhance teaching and learning? We have to have the right curriculum. So if anything we learned over these last series of podcasts, I think that's one of the key elements. We have to ensure that all teachers have the right tools. We have to have the right resources that can be shared with students and teachers. Have the necessary funds, and funding is important, but it comes from the policymaker. So we have to ensure that our policies are made to promote this type of learning environment. We went over a series of digital tools that could be used in an inclusive learning environment and ways that we could have been creative to use them. And see, listed up above is a list of tools that can be used and even more that can help students in an inclusive and diverse learning environment. So as I closed off this series of podcasts, I would use the same reflection that I use in podcast 4, module 4. As I reflect upon this module, I'm reminded of how the atmosphere has to be set in order for things to come. And this atmosphere has to be set by us as facilitators. We have to be ready and equipped to teach in an inclusive learning environment. So in this environment, it's evident that certain key curriculum changes has to be made, and innovation with creativity have to be in place in order to ensure and have a successful, comprehensive, diverse learning environment. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout my series of podcasts on inclusion and diversity. And I hope you gain something and it will add to your teaching and learning environment. Thank you for watching. See the references below.